House Republicans are getting ready to vote on 2 immigration bills later today. Meanwhile, President Trump just tweeted again on immigration. He says this: the border has been a big mess and problem for many years. At some point, Schumer and Pelosi, who are weak on crime and border security, will be forced to do a real deal. So easy that solves this long-time problem. Schumer used to want border security. Now he'll take crime, according to the president this morning. Our next guest thinks the focus should be on the economy and not the border, especially when it comes to the November elections. He has an op-ed this morning titled, "Make 2018 About Taxes, Not Migration." That's in the Wall Street Journal. Joining us right now, the author of the piece, Fox News contributor, former senior advisor to President George W. Bush, Karl Rove. Karl, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
You bet, but I must admit I'm a little bit worried. I've been listening to the program and the talk of $100 shakes and chicken and waffles. Nardelli is going to be leading all the panel members on a brisk walk up 6th Avenue and back after the program is over.
Well, luckily we don't have the chicken and waffles on set.
I'm going to get somebody to check Dagan's thermos flask for whatever she takes to the movies, too. I was a little bit concerned about that.
You will approve. Put it that way.
You will approve.
Dagan, I don't drink, so I'm not certain that I will approve of what I think is in your flask.
That's what I meant, Mr. Rove.
You know, those walks, I miss those store walks we used to do at Home Depot, you and I.
Hey, I wish I'd known you were going to be on. I would have got my Home Depot apron and shown up in that. Nardelli once put me on the floor of a Home Depot, gave me
An apron?
The outfit, yeah, the apron,
yeah.
and put me in the paint department. It was pretty amazing.
Well, those orange aprons were pretty cool, Bob. Let me ask you, Karl. You have an op-ed in the Journal this morning, and basically you're saying make 2018 about taxes and obviously about the strong economy, and not about migration, but it might not be up to them to make 2018 about that. We're seeing these pictures of kids all behind, fencing. How do Republicans do that?
Well, by getting the issue solved. That's why it's really important today that the Republicans in the House pass something. I think the compromise bill would be the best measure, but maybe it won't go anywhere in the Senate, but the Republicans will be able to say, at least the House Republicans, we took up a measure. It's provided, it resolved the issue of the Dreamers. It provided for border security. We got rid of the diversity lottery. We put measures in place that will change this more from family to merit, so that we start attracting the world's best brains and the best minds and the best entrepreneurs, rather than just simply saying if they're your distant cousin that they can come in. So if they get something done, that will help them be able to move the issue back to the economy. But if you take a look at recent polls, you'll see that interest in the immigration issue is rising in recent polls. But do you know who it's rising among? Democrats, which means that that this issue of separating children from their parents is energizing the Democratic base, not the Republican base, and it's turning off independents, particularly suburban women who lean Republican and whose votes are vital to keeping the House in Republican hands. They're getting really turned off by this.
But, Karl, if you listen to the Democratic messaging, and we've talked about Senator Chuck Schumer saying Trump needs to fix this, which he did yesterday, but I'm not voting for any legislation. Again, it's not about the children. It's about Donald Trump and the resistance. And you heard yesterday it was, oh, my God, you're separating families. And then the hysteria went to, now you're jailing families, which was the policy of the Obama administration before that 2015 court decision. So, again, it's very clear what they want. They want President Trump out of office, and they want wide open borders.
Then what better contrast to that? I agree with you totally, Dagan. What better contrast than to have the Republicans pass a bill that makes sense? If you take a look at the polls, the kind of bill that the Republican compromise is talking about is favored by the American people by almost 2-to-1. Now, that's a terrific arrow in your quiver. If Schumer says, I'm not going to do anything because I want this mess to be on your doorstep, then provide a constructive, positive answer and point to that, and point to the Democratic obstructionism and not being willing to either vote for it or to pass it. It helped on the tax cuts when the Democrats decided for their own reasons not to give a single vote in the House of Representatives or the Senate to support the tax cut. Yeah. It made them look like obstructionists when the bill passed.
Not one of them voted for it, Bob.
Yeah, Karl, how do we make sure that the Republicans on the House floor don't look like obstructionists? I mean, do you need to go down on the floor and just shake them? I mean, we got to get this thing passed and, to your point, be able to move on to the midterms.
Yeah, look, we have an element inside the Republican Party, the Freedom Caucus, that insists that it's their way or the highway. They want to have a bill perfectly written by them, and they constantly changing what the definition of perfect is. Yeah. Let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Let's get together and get a bill that moves in the right direction. Maybe it's not going to have everything in it that everybody wants. Maybe it'll have some things in it that not everybody wants. But let's get a bill that has broad agreement on most of the things in it and show some progress. This is the beginning of the process, not the end of it. But if we end it by not passing a bill, then we're going to look like we can't govern. Yeah. And that'll be a strike against us for the fall.
Meanwhile, the New York Times reporting that former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg plans to spend at least $80 million of his own money on the 2018 midterm elections to support Democrats. What are you expecting the effect to be here?
Well, that's a lot of money. That's enough to burn a wet mule. And think about it in this way. He's going to focus that. He's going to focus that money on maybe 20 or 30 contests. He sort of is signaling that he wants to support sort of moderately sort of centrist-leaning, moderately liberal Democrats who are willing to buck Nancy Pelosi and work with Republicans. And so he's already started signaling that he's going to have a relatively small list of people, and that's $3 or $4 million per race. That is going to be more money than probably most Democrats have in their war chests by a factor of 2. So it's going to have a big impact. This is not good news for Republicans.
Well, when you say buck Nancy Pelosi, I don't think she's going anywhere.
I don't either, but this is going to be one interesting thing to watch because you now have 20 Democrat nominees for the U.S. House who say they will not support Nancy Pelosi. Now, remember, to get elected Speaker, you have to have 218 members of the House vote for you. So if you got 20 Democrats saying, I ain't voting for her, that means they need to get 20 more Democrats. You know, if they held 218, they'd have to have 20 more. They'd have to win 238 seats in order to elect her Speaker. We could be in a place on either side, Republican or Democrat, where we have multiple ballots and it goes on for days. Probably not as bad as 1856 when it took 2 months to elect the Speaker of the House, but it ain't going to be pretty.
So you think it goes into, well, toward year end?
I don't know. I think it goes into multiple ballots. I don't think anybody's going to have Republican or Democrat. Whoever wins the House, I find it hard to believe they'll have 218 votes for one person right at the beginning.
Wow. All right. We'll watch that. Karl, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Karl Rove.